Smell us now, lady. Welcome to MeatEater Trivia.
MeatEater Podcast.
Welcome to MeatEater Radio Live. It's 11 a.m. Mountain Time on September 19th, and we're live from MeatEater HQ in Bozeman, Montana. I'm your host, Spencer Newharth, joined today by Giannis Putelis and Randall Williams. On today's show, we're calling Chester Floyd for an update on his archery hunt in Montana. Then we'll review the 1996 documentary Project Grizzly for the MeatEater Movie Club, followed by 1 Minute Fishing with Pat Durkin in Idaho. Then we'll do some show and tell with items we brought into the studio. And finally, we'll interview Chef Yia Vang about Hmong cooking and his newest restaurant. But first, we have Gianni Putelis over here, who's Googling whether or not he looks like Jerry West.
Yeah, I'm looking at images of him, and he lived a long time, so that it spans, a whole lifetime. And I'm not seeing it, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
Me and Randall agreed a little bit.
A little bit.
I think you look like the actor who portrayed Jerry West in the HBO series about the Showtime Lakers.
Yeah. Now, Yanni just got home from an elk hunt. Yanni,
That's right.
Did you kill an elk?
Did not kill an elk.
Okay. How close did you get to killing an elk?
70, 80 yards.
And is that close in your book?
Not really.
Okay.
For a moment, there was a very high moment there when he was bugling. I was approaching him with my camera guy. I was trying to actually get the wind right, so I was kind of going around high, and I had to go across this super loud scree. You know how scree sometimes can be dense, and other times it's very volcanic and kind of airy, and that stuff is just like around him. But we bumped a cow just as we got around him, and I don't know if he was with the cow or not. Again, the wind's howling, so when they bugle, you can't tell if they're 100 yards away, 200 yards away. Anyways, I pop over this little rise, and I see him. He's got his nose to the ground like a bird dog. He's
How big?
Just a regular old 5-point.
Okay.
Not big, probably a 2-year-old. And we had just enough cover that we kind of like faded back just a little bit, and there's these smaller pines, and there was a little valley between the two of us, and I just gave him one cow call. And man, as soon as he heard it, he just lifted his head, looked right at me, and I'm like, oh boy. I'm telling Tyler, get ready, it's on. And he put his head back down on that scent trail and then just kept going on wherever that cow went. We chased him, got him to bugle a few more times, but never caught up to him again.
Now, this was the hunt with Dr. Seth Walk.
That's right.
Who had donkeys. How did that go, hunting with donkeys in the backcountry?
It was great. They were very, is amiable the right word?
Yeah.
Okay.
Amiable, friendly.
Yeah, just like pretty easy to take care of, packed well, and like you'd just be hanging out at camp at lunch, and all of a sudden a donkey would just walk up and just stand there like, as if they wanted to just hang out and join the conversation. We did have one donkey issue where while we were gone, one of the donkeys didn't want to be inside the electric fence, and so we just let it free roam.
Okay.
But because they're herd animals, it wouldn't leave the ones that were inside the electric fence. It tripped, walked on, don't really know what happened, but I came back to my teepee tent, and it had a third door in it. Like a 4-foot rip, yeah. That was the day before the big weather came in. Luckily, I had a tarp, so we were able to, do a little tent city action, and we survived it. But, Seth did get a shot. He was just it was early season, right? So the bugling was half-assed. We saw half the elk we saw were just bachelor group bulls that weren't bugling. But he was just still hunting down a ridge and just had a bull cross right in front of him that low 20s, 20 yards, and hit a limb that he didn't see. Arrow just blew up.
Did it make you want to add donkeys to the Giannis Putelis ranch?
Oh man, we discussed it a lot. It's one of those things. It's like any animal you have at your house. even though they work for you, you have to have them because you enjoy them. It's like our chickens. We don't eat cheap eggs by any means, you know.
Yeah.
You might eat my cheap eggs because I just give you a dozen, you know. And I don't think I've given you some yet, so I should bring some in for you. But same thing with the donkeys. It's like, okay, there's 11 and a half months or 11 months where they're just going to be around and you're taking care of them. So are you going to enjoy those 11 months so that you can have them to do your once or twice a year elk adventure and pack some meat out, you know?
Yeah.
I'll be honest, about 36 hours ago, I was on a half dozen donkey rescue websites.
Oh.
Yeah.
Inspired by what?
The review of the donks. Our neighbor used to have some donks. They all went away. But yeah, I'm, always interested in large animals that seem friendly.
Yeah. Now, I will say, remember how when we interviewed Seth a few weeks ago, and I gave you a little bio about him and about how he had this little goal of his to kill elk every year, public land with his bow, but never hunt the same mountain range 3 times, or same spot / mountain range 3 years in a row. And I think he was on like 11 out of 13 years at the end of last year. Well, 2 days after we got home, he went out for a walk with his son in the evening and killed another bull in a new mountain range.
It's impressive.
So
What a killer.
Yeah, he's a mega killer. And, there's a little bit of that, horseshoe stuck up his butt, which some people just have. They're just magnets. I'm not saying...
Not 12 out of 14 years.
But it helps.
Sure, okay.
Yeah. But no, for sure. Down, just straight up killer. And of course, like... We hunt our asses off. We averaged, I don't have one of those fancy watches, but everybody else seems to have a watch. So
I can't believe you don't.
Yeah, you seem like the type. No offense.
I do for running, but I don't wear it every day. And so the guys were like, yeah, we're averaging 14 miles a day and about 3,000 feet of elevation gain, which is solid, for a week. That was solid a week of work. So we busted our asses off. And Seth literally goes for a walk with his son.
Okay.
And he's like, yeah, I heard some bugling. We got a little closer, but they were kind of far away. I made 2 cow calls, and then my son's like, hey, there he is. He's coming. And he's like, I had to knock an arrow. And then he kept coming, and I shot him.
So he earned that bull with you, and then got it with his son.
Sure.
Speaking of elk hunt, our next guest is on one right now.
I'm going to interrupt you, Spencer.
What's
Sorry
that?
to completely throw off your flow, but I don't want to jump over this Jerry West thing, because we've got people who in the comments who agree, and I just want to bring up a picture here.
Oh, is that Yanni?
No, that's Jerry West.
Okay.
That's a young Jerry
Do
West.
you see it,
and
Yanni?
I don't.
I'd just like to say shout out Delamere and Hopkins. I see the comment there in the chat.
What did
Appreciate
he
you
say?
guys.
Oh,
Chat, let us know
Cincinnati.
if Yanni indeed looks like Jerry West. Now, speaking of elk hunts, our next guest is on one right now. Joining us on the line is our very own Chester Floyd, who's calling in from an archery deer and elk hunt in Montana. Chester, welcome to the show, and tell us where you're standing right now. You don't have to be too specific.
You guys are muted.
What's up, guys?
Can you
There
hear
you
us
are.
now?
yeah, we can hear you now. They had their phone muted because we were being so loud. They were afraid that we were going to spook their elk.
Well, we do have a bull bedded, he's probably 500 yards away from us, so keep it down if you could.
Whoa.
I can't tell if that's
Good
real
for
or
you guys.
facetious.
So, Chester, I didn't hear that you were going to be on a elk hunt with Corey. Last I heard, you were in eastern Montana hunting mule deer, and now you're magically with Corey in somewhere else in Montana hunting elk. How'd that come about?
Well, Yanni, I was out in eastern Montana, and the deer hunting wasn't what I expected it to be. Chili actually came out there with me, and we had one stalk on a nice, 150-inch mule deer, but it was super hot and windy out there. We're roasting Wisconsin brats right now, so we're getting smoked out a little bit.
Look at those.
Oh, nice, boys. Are those wild game, or is that just straight up pork from Wisconsin?
no, that's-
You know it, buddy.
No, they're not.
I know what.
Johnsonville
I think it-
all the way.
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't count as a Wisconsin brat. Chester, are you hunting with a trad bow?
Nope.
No, that's all right. I'm just wondering. I don't judge if you're hunting with one or without one. All right, give me an elk report. You guys got a bull 500 yards away, but are they bugling? That's what everybody wants to know. Are they bugling?
So we had some weather roll in yesterday. It rained probably about 1.5 inches, and it kind of shut them up. It was pretty consistent before that. I've been out here for a week, seeing elk every morning, hearing elk every evening. But again, that rain kind of shut them up a little bit. It's made the hunting conditions great because it's nice and cool. The grass is real quiet. But we did get into a bull this morning, 50 yards from the bull, 10 yards from one of his cows, and then another cow winded us. I probably could have shot him at 50, but that's a long ways. It felt like he was going to come in closer. He was hot on that cow for a second. So now we're roasting weenies and
About as close as you can get to shooting an elk without getting them, I feel like. Corey even asked me at one point, he's like, you want to shoot that cow? Definitely thought about it, but that bull was just right behind him. So I think we made the right call.
Now that you have Chester joining you, Corey, have you taken the position of the caller, or how's that working?
Well, actually, this group that we're on here, I've been chasing. I'm pretty sure it's the same group since last Friday. So it's been today's day 7, chasing this bull around. So Chester's been kind enough to kind of let me keep trying to kill this one. But again, if there was an opportunity for a cow or a younger bull, I would let him jump in front of me and do some calling. So we've kind of been going back and forth. We did a little rock, paper, scissors yesterday to see who would get the shot, but the opportunity never arose. So we've been going back and forth depending on the situation.
I'm just
okay. You guys, are you guys bugling at him more or cow calling at him more? What's your tactic right now? Tell me what your plan is going to be for this upcoming afternoon hunt. How are you going to kill him?
Well, we got eyes on some elk across this big canyon that we're on here. So what we'll probably do is kind of just work around this basin, and he's been responsive to bugles, but then you get in close and he kind of shuts up. He's also been responsive to cow calls, but again, I think I've bumped him 3 different times, so I'm trying to be really kind of tame, and I don't want to bump him again, obviously. So I think it's more let him bugle and we'll try and sneak in. That's what we did this morning. He was making all the noise and we set up and we got lucky. We were right in their path, just obviously not lucky enough. So we're going to keep an eye on this bull, but we also have eyes on elk across the canyon. So we got plan A through G going at the moment.
Nice. All right, Spencer's got a question for you.
Corey, how many more days of your hunt are left?
I should probably go home about Saturday. So what's today? October?
Today is Thursday. If you want to follow along with Corey's hunt, he's doing daily updates on MeatEater's Instagram channel, so you can check out his successes or failures over there. Randall, what are you doing over there?
I was just checking which date was Saturday. Saturday looks like the 20th. I'm just looking at it here on our new...
oh, wow.
That's in 2025.
That's next year.
Oh, that's
date.
right. Yeah, silly me. Silly me. Why do I have a calendar for next year at hand? Oh, it's the effed up old shitters calendar that will go on sale next week, I believe.
Did you have a part in making that?
I did. I got to review all the photos of the various outdoor commodes. And then we had a fun afternoon coming up with captions with Steve.
There was a writer session, Randall, Brody, Steve.
We had a regular old writer's room coming up with quips about toilets.
For a calendar. Chester, any final words before we say goodbye and let you boys eat those Johnsonville brats?
Yes, actually, I'd like to say one more thing before we burn these brats here. So since we have this, we're lucky enough here at MeatEater to have a platform where a bunch of people are listening to our content and whatnot. I figured I'd kind of do a little bit of a ask for help type thing, which I know we don't typically do. But I have a buddy who's a go-getter in the outdoors and just in life in general. He's soon to be father, and he's been diagnosed with kind of a rare disease, and basically what's happening is his muscles in his hands and his arms like forearms and stuff are deteriorating, like just going downhill, and it's getting worse and worse. And he wants to be able to keep doing what he loves to do, and he's tried a bunch of different things, like stem cells. He's been to Mayo a few times, and I'm gonna just kind of let you know what this is a little bit, and then I guess ultimately, if anybody has any info or has dealt with this or can point my buddy Devin in the right direction, that'd be wonderful. So it's called Hirayama disease, Hirayama, also known as monomelic. I can barely pronounce this here. Amyotrophy, monomelic amyotrophy. And it's a rare neurological disorder characterized by progressive muscle weakness and wasting, typically in one arm or a hand. In his case, both arms and hands. He's really trying to just continue on doing what he's doing. And he told me some days he's worried if one day he's going to wake up and not be able to go to work the next day because he can't pick up something or whatnot.
All right, Chester, send our thoughts to your buddy, and if anyone has any feedback for Chester's buddy, hit up Chester on Instagram, and he'll pass that along. Now, the last thing here before we go, Corey, there is someone in the chat named Sarah Calkins who says he doesn't have to be home until Sunday, followed by another comment that says, but he better not be empty-handed.
Ooh.
And since you're eating all the brats, you better have an elk.
Yeah, I got 3 more days, and I better start hitting some grouse then.
All right, boys, good luck. Corey, we will follow along on Instagram with your hunt.
Thanks, guys.
Now, our next segment is MeatEater Movie Club. This week, we're reviewing the 1996 documentary Project Grizzly.
Project Grizzly is a quirky and captivating 1996 Canadian documentary directed by Peter Lynch. It follows the eccentric inventor Troy Hurtubise on his obsessive quest to create a suit of armor capable of withstanding a grizzly bear attack. Inspired by a terrifying yet fascinating encounter with a grizzly, Troy's journey is equal parts poignant and absurd as he subjects himself to increasingly dangerous experiments to prove the efficacy of his invention. In many respects, the film provides an unsettling commentary on the absurdity of man's search for purpose in the modern world. From a materialist perspective, the film's brief mention of Troy's unused degree in resource management and his venomous disdain for so-called experts are revealing. This detail speaks to a larger societal issue that has only become more pressing since the film's release, the disconnect between education and meaningful employment opportunities. And in a Freudian sense, the viewer can't help but wonder whether Troy's fumbling attempts to create an invincible suit of armor derive from a need to eclipse his father's parallel Don Quixote-like quest, a bizarrely detailed recreation of an Iroquois village that forms the backdrop for Troy's earliest memories. We do not have much insight into the relationship between our eccentric protagonist and his mother, but in a telling aside, he notes that she has not said anything to him about his project in the 7 years that he's been working on it. The documentary thus presents a unique perspective on existential angst set against the backdrop of the vast Canadian wilderness. Troy's obsessive mission, while ostensibly about protection from bears, is really an attempt to cobble together identity and purpose in a world that doesn't seem to have a clear place for him. The bear suit, born from a refusal to see a chance animal encounter as meaningless, becomes a physical manifestation of his struggle against insignificance in a vast, uncaring universe. And I'll conclude with this. Ultimately, Troy's inability to move in his unwieldy costume in an attempt to encounter a real bear underscores the tragic yet darkly comic nature of his quest.
Wow. Is there anything left to be said after that?
No.
Well,
no, I don't think so.
In lieu of a hunt fish factoid, Spencer, I know that you have an exciting discovery to share with our audience.
Yeah, 5 minutes into watching this documentary yesterday, I was like, where is this suit now? So I went to Google, and within a half hour, I was speaking to the current owner of the Grizzly proof suit, which was the Ursus what was it, Mark's?
It's the Mark 7.
Mark 6. Oh, whatever it is. The one that he has in the film. I've tracked down the current owner of that on some future episode of MeatEater Radio. We're going to talk to that person and get all the details about how they came into possession of it.
Well, that's fantastic. Gentlemen, I'm just curious for your initial thoughts on the film.
My initial thoughts. This isn't a movie about like building a grizzly bear-proof suit. This is about some drinking buddies who take all their energy that normally, like among a friend group, goes into hunting or fishing or golfing or gardening, and they just put that into building a RoboCop. That's what this documentary is to me.
And you felt like it was a group of buddies, like they weren't hired hands?
I would, well, okay, later on he says something about my research team, which I think his research team are his drinking buddies.
Yeah, I do have a note from Sydney here. Who are these effing people with him? Was Sydney's reaction to the
his
film.
Buddies. His buddies. Yanni.
Those are actually some of my favorite parts,
Yes.
where when they're in the cafe just kind of shooting the bull.
Yes.
But yeah, I could never tell if they were genuine friends or because I imagine to do what he did here, he had deep pockets.
Well,
deep
I think
enough.
he went into
Or
debt.
deep debt.
Yeah, I will say the one man who's in charge of lobbing the explosives like grenades, he did refer to him as Uncle John.
Yeah.
So I do think that they weren't all hired hands. Giannis, I mean, did you watch this with anyone, or did you screen this by yourself?
Jennifer popped in and out of the room, and she was captivated at moments. Once she realized what it was, as you so beautifully described in the beginning, it became a little more interesting, you know, that it was really a portrait of this person, not so much about this suit. But even then, I think that she's a busy woman, and she decided that it wasn't worth her time.
That's a good review.
Maybe she'll revisit that decision after hearing our little summary here.
I doubt it, but go ahead.
I'm curious, out of the entirety of the film, what about Troy's Odyssey sort of struck you as resonated with you, given your experience outdoors and in bear country?
Well, like Yanni had just said, my favorite parts weren't even related to the suit. I just loved how Canadian in the 90s this felt, where they're ripping cigs in a diner, and they're like playing pool at a gentleman's club. They're tearing through mud puddles in a quarter-ton pickup.
He has a turtleneck with short sleeves.
I had Canadian friends in the 90s that wore berets.
Oh, yeah, and buckskins. and at one point, like, it's like, okay, it can't get more ridiculous than him wearing a red beret and a buckskin jacket. And then it cuts to him in a duster jacket.
Oh, yeah, the duster. I have
Thank
that in
you,
my
Troy.
notes here, too.
You outdid yourself. Yeah, just all the stuff that's very Canadian, where he's lighting a cigarette with a blowtorch at one point, and how he acts like his wife is the old ball and chain. And like, I'm only allowed out every other night between 11 p.m. and 1:30 a.m. Otherwise, my bitch of a wife is just going to be so angry with me. And that was very satisfying, the sitcominess in a genuine way.
He had, when he was shaving at the wilderness camp with his Bowie knife, and here on the screen now, our viewers will enjoy some of the experiments in which Mr. Hurtubise tests how well his suit works.
Oh, did you make a little compilation?
No, I'm just playing a little clip from
But
YouTube.
when he's shaving with the buck knife, or the Bowie knife, you see there's a lit cigarette sitting underneath the mirror, so he can take drags in between strokes.
I was actually impressed with his with his physical fitness. He's doing something to stay in shape. There's like a short little beat where he's sort of getting ready to
He's
put the
doing
suit
Tai
on,
Chi.
and he's doing some Tai Chi, and he's flipping this cane around, and like, I don't know, if I tried to flip a cane around like that, I'd end up hurting myself.
But I bucketed that in like the bad part of the movie, because it wouldn't matter if you put Shaquille O'Neal or Dolly Parton in that suit. It wouldn't matter. Like, the results would be the exact same. So him thinking that his yoga is a crucial part of surviving this bear attack is just ridiculous.
I think he was just getting limber so that he could get into the suit,
Yeah.
which was no small task in and of itself.
Well, and he was also getting ready to face down a grizzly bear. He might have been just psyching himself up, getting the mental game strong.
Now,
you know?
I'll add that one of the parts of the film that spoke to me as an outdoorsman is coming up with the solution to every possible eventuality, and then realizing that if you do what you think you need to do, you won't be able to undertake what you're actually trying to accomplish.
Yes.
I mean, I've always thought about bringing X, Y, and Z on my backpacking trip. And I think he has a sort of comically exaggerated version of that where he's not able to move in his suit. Mm-hmm. I do have a quote here.
Randall has 8 pages of notes in front of him.
Jesus Christ, I can't walk. And then there's another one where he says, "Oh, F, quicksand, F." So, yeah, I feel like I feel like everybody has that voice within them that's like, take this, add that. You'll be able to solve the problem. But at some point, you just have to go out there and do it.
Yeah. 2 other parts I really liked. I trust that the suit was indestructible. If he were to get in a fight with a grizzly, he would survive without a scratch on him. The other one was I liked when telling his backstory about why he became obsessed with grizzly bears, and he was talking about the encounter that he had, that he openly said that he shit and pissed himself during that encounter. That was a nice touch on his part. Good storytelling.
Yeah. They do ride into some big country, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
Those boys weren't scared of being out in some big time wilds. At least
it says near Banff.
At least what they portrayed as big mountains. But yeah, the fact that he didn't think through like being able to move and walk in the suit, and that his buddies didn't mention it, and the director of the film. Because it was a real letdown, right? I mean, you're kind of getting hyped up, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can't walk, and we're going to abort.
I think the other part that really made this special for me was once they're in camp and they can't encounter a grizzly bear, they all reveal that the grizzly, one of them says the grizzly doesn't even have to be there to get that edge. And there's the guy describing... the hand grenade game that they used to play.
Yes, in Vietnam.
Yeah, in Vietnam.
He said he went to Vietnam because he wanted to travel a little bit.
For fun, travel, and adventure, and to get a feel for what it's like in combat. But several of them all acknowledge that, like, there's a certain thrill in putting themselves in this dangerous situation, but it doesn't actually have to be dangerous. Just knowing that the bear is out there is enough for them. That's that also spoke to something within me.
Yeah. The last I have to say about it is you've already touched on it, but the Bowie knife stuff there at the end, it really sums it all up because it goes away from one crazy thing and jumps over to another crazy thing, which is he's equally crazy about, and he's even saying that his blokes are laughing at him about the way, I mean, he's carrying this, that blade's got to be 10 inches.
Like Rambo.
And he's carrying it, like, not on his hip, like most guys.
Well, no, he's got one there as well.
Right.
Well,
but he's got 2 different kinds.
He's got 3, because there's one point where he's swinging 2 Bowie knives, and I was like, oh, he's got the one on his shoulder, but where did he have the second one? And then I realized the other one was still in the shoulder sheath. So he had 3 10-inch blades.
But he takes it so seriously that he even because most people that own a Bowie knife like that, it ain't sharp. Right? It's like a toy. He had it so sharp that he could actually kind of shave, which was impressive.
Yeah.
And then the fact that he could actually throw it, and I mean, I don't know how many takes it took, but again, in the film, it shows him sticking it into a tree.
But he acknowledges that in a defensive situation, he would have to be a certain distance to get the right rotation.
And the best part about that whole scene is he justifies carrying knives by saying, this isn't for bears, it's because there's a lot of wackos out here, which is just incredible. It'd be like if, a terrorist was at a terrorist mixer and he was like, some of these people in here just don't have very good morale. So it was perfect.
I thought...
Good morals. That's what I meant. Have good morals.
I thought the knife thing was also interesting because he said, everybody laughs at me, but if I ever run into a real mountain man who knows his salt, he's going to see these blades and think, this guy knows what he's doing. Mm-hmm. So despite the reality that he encounters, he has this imaginary scenario in his mind that justifies what he's doing.
Right.
I thought it was a wonderful film. I enjoyed every minute of it. I probably hadn't seen it in 10 years or more. I don't remember when it was that I first saw it, but it exceeded my my vague memories of it. So I think it would be an interesting film to pair with Grizzly Man because they're 2 individuals one's sort of a tortured, failed actor, and the other one is this, dreamer. And they both have very different relationships to grizzly bears, and ultimately they both fail in their life's work.
Yeah. I like, one of my takeaways was that the suit wasn't that impressive. He had said at one point, he's like, it's 147 pounds, which is relatively light. And it's like, no, it's not. And he couldn't, as you discussed earlier, Randall, he couldn't take 2 steps in the thing, which was an enormous flaw for trying to get attacked. And then, another thing you touched on was just how he doesn't like experts. He'll like reference experts, but it's always in a very sarcastic way. Like he's criticizing, what the experts think about grizzly bears.
Well, he did have Minnesota rubber on that suit, which can stop a high-speed drill. Then there's a layer of titanium, then chainmail, then plastic, then more titanium, then more plastic. So, I don't know. You can't get all that stuff on and without going at least over 100 pounds.
Yeah.
Giannis, thoughts?
I mean, in the end, do you guys feel that the drive just did come from sort of just trying to live up to his father's expectations?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because he kind of says it. He's like, the ghost is always there, and he's like sort of, his dad is almost a mythical person when he's talking about, he created all this by hand with a hatchet. This was like good for the community. He's trying to impress his dad who's not around, and I feel like he like kind of straight up says that at some point.
Yeah, but to the point that it drove him mad.
He says in a revealing moment, my biggest fear is monotony, the fear of being average. And I think if we view his quest in that sense, he achieved what he's looking for because he is immortalized in this classic documentary.
Yeah, my final takeaway, watch the movie. 4 out of 5 stars.
Yep.
Any outdoorsman would enjoy what you get in like this 72-minute watch. Free on Tubi, and then I think in other parts of the world, it's free on YouTube. It's not for Americans, but Tubi is a free streaming app, and I think that's where most of us consumed it at. All right, Phil, we are about halfway through the show here. Give us some listener feedback. What do the people have to say?
Just in regards to Project Grizzly, Ryan just says it's another day in Canada. I don't know, Canadians chime in. Like. Tell us what you think. He's the Canadian Iron Man, Dan says.
Yes.
He
Dan
looks like
B.
Buzz
Pooper.
Lightyear, Brandon says. And then a different Ryan is asking, how do we know what the movie will be for the next episode whenever we do a movie review?
The week before on MeatEater Radio here, I think it's usually the last thing that is said on the show. We will tell you what movie we're reviewing. I think we don't have another movie review for 2 more weeks, and I think we already decided on that one. It's going to be Escanaba into Moonlight, which I've never seen. I'm sure that Yanni has probably seen it 25 times.
I've never
by
seen
now.
it.
Okay.
But this was a highly requested film.
Yes, and we will always give you a 1-week warning about what we're going to watch, and we'll tell you how you can watch it as well, so you can join us in the MeatEater Movie Club discussion.
Yeah,
I had to find out about that movie by some hunting clients of mine from Missouri. I hadn't seen it, and I was, 25 years old, and they rolled in one year and had just quote after quote from this movie and couldn't believe that I hadn't seen it. And
some movies take on a larger life, like long after, they were relevant the first time. I think this is one of them. The invention of social media and, like the success of 45-second clips in our daily life has really like put this movie on a pedestal in a way that I don't think it was when it was released in 1996.
I think that's fair.
Phil, any other feedback at this portion of the show?
Yeah, we got some feedback. See, Josh says that you look like Teddy Roosevelt and you should be Teddy for Halloween.
Okay, I'll
like
take
the sticker
that.
on your
Yeah.
laptop.
Leandro's chiming in all the way from Brazil. He just listened to the last episode of MeatEater Trivia and heard about Randall's fishing. I'm guessing your golf course fish.
It must have been that big fish I caught. Word spreading.
And this person
Fantastic.
they have a peacock bass as their profile picture.
Oh,
Yeah, and
you
that's-
caught it out of a golf course pond?
4.5
Hell,
pounder.
Yes, we did, Yanni.
You guys should have had some kids with you. And
We
maybe
did. We had
and-
college
and
kids
maybe
with us.
let them fish.
We'd let them fish
Let me.
all day. Yanni.
I'll find you a photo here.
Yanni's telling us how he real feels.
Fish in
really
a
feels.
barrel.
Does Spencer actually work or just make up games for everyone at MeatEater to play instead of actually getting real work done? Take this lightheartedly. You guys are the best.
That is my work here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's very good at it.
Thank you, Phil.
And then last one here, Caleb says, will there be a trivia component to MeatEater Radio in the future?
I'm going to add to that
There
because
should
Phil
be.
is too modest. There are tons of people shouting you out today, Phil, but someone had suggested that Phil should host a live trivia, pop culture and movie related.
Yes, so one of our future segments, I think it'll be a day when we've got like a Brody, a Steve, maybe a Yanni or a Cal here. We're going to do Phil's trivia, which are going to be pop culture related questions, and we're going to find out just how little these boys know about what's happening in the world of sports and Hollywood and cinema and TV, and it's going to be very satisfying.
Let's fire up that Phil cam for a minute.
Yeah, exactly.
Hear from the man
audience is
himself.
waiting for that. Come on, Phil.
Hey,
By popular demand.
I see you guys shouting out in the chat. I appreciate you. I see you. There are dozens of us. Keep fighting the good fight. You're worthwhile. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
The Philistines.
That's right.
Anything else for now, Phil?
I think that's it for now. But keep chiming in with some questions because we're going to do another round of Q&A at the end of the show. So if you have any questions for the boys, put them in the live chat, please.
All right, moving on. Our next segment is 1 Minute Fishing.
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk? Go ahead. Make my cast.
1 Minute Fishing is where we go live to someone who's fishing, and they have 1 minute to catch a fish, and if they're successful, we'll make a $500 donation to a conservation group. This week, our angler is Pat Durkin, who's on Lake Cascade in Idaho, and he's fishing for a donation to Muskies, Inc. Pat, welcome to the show.
Hey, Spencer. Good to hear from you.
Pat, how has the fishing been so far? I take it you've been on the water for most of the morning so far.
Yeah, I got to show you what we got so far.
Okay, Pat is going to what I assume is a live well. Wow.
Oh, that ain't no live well.
He has got a live well of a ton of jumbos perch in there. These all look like the 13, 14 inchers that have shoulders on them. That's when you have a jumbo perch, when they start to develop shoulders. Pat, what have you been doing out there on Cascade Lake to catch all these fish?
I got to give all the credit to my guide out here, Chris Weber. Chris is a fellow Wisconsinite. He's been guiding here. I got to tell you, Spencer, one of my funny things I think is funny is people ask me all the time, why do you go fishing in Idaho when you got perch in Wisconsin? And I always think, Chris Weber here, he didn't just come here fishing once. He actually moved here from Wisconsin because of these jumbo.
Chris, tell us about the tactics you guys are using out on the water today.
Well, right now we've been throwing Ned rigs and blade baits, a couple different lures.
I got a Ned rig right in front of me here.
Pat's gonna start.
Can we get a close up of that? I've never heard of that.
Ned rig? Yeah, it's just basically a chunk of it's like a 3-inch chunk of plastic, and then my favorite blade bait. This is the Weber blade that I helped design. Works really good. We've had a great morning so far. We got 30 fish in the live well, and hopefully Pat can put it together in 1 minute. It's a lot of pressure, but I got faith.
Okay. Chris is sharing all his secrets with us. Now we're going to see if Pat Durkin can put it into action. Pat, your 1 minute of fishing starts when you make your first cast. Go ahead.
All right. Here we go.
Right there, Pat.
Now, we have no idea on the lake where they are at. There is a lot of overcast back there, and Pat has just made his very first cast.
The music is a nice touch, Phil.
Did we get new music?
Looks like a pretty slow retrieve. Oh, a little jig.
He's bouncing it off the bottom on his retrieve here.
The water must not be very deep. Uh-oh, he's frozen. No.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Come on.
Here we go. Okay, he's back.
Oh, I feel a strike coming.
Pat, you have 30 seconds left.
Work it, Pat. Work it. Feel it.
As a reminder, we have yet to have a successful angler for 1 minute fishing.
Oh,
he set the hook. He has
it's
one.
on.
Fish is on. Fish is on, ladies and gentlemen.
Come on, Pat.
Here's Chris
We've
with
got
the net.
My God.
That is a good
He's
rod
done
bend
it.
for a perch. The net scoop is happening. It's at the boat.
What's
right
up?
at 1 minute. A high five between
That's a moment in MeatEater Radio live history here.
One cast is all it took.
Beauty.
And it's a keeper. That is a jumbo perch of jumbo perch. Pat, well done.
Thank you, Spencer.
Sounds like it's time to head back to the boat ramp. You've accomplished what you set out to do.
Pat
How
is
big
our
is that?
our first ever angler to be successful on 1 minute fishing, and that means we're going to make a $500 donation on behalf of MeatEater and Pat to Muskies Inc. Now, Pat, tell us about that 1 minute. How did you think it was going to happen?
I had about an 80% chance. I figured we were out about 8 o'clock. I got to show you, Spencer, a secret here. Chris has been picking on me all morning. I'm fishing with my old Mitchell 300 from the 1970s.
Wow.
I let Chris try it earlier. He tried it, gave it a few cranks, and he says, "Do you like this, huh?" But Mitchell 300s, these guys think they're old school, but I use them because they work. I've been using this 40 years. The other ones are 50 years old. So anyway, that's the secret to my success. But also, Chris also picked on me because I'm using 8-pound monofilament instead of a good braid, which I'll be. But yeah, this is exciting. Thanks for having me on.
Well done, Pat. The chat is very excited right now. I've seen people call you a hero, a legend, and just
someone said all it took was to have a Wisconsinite on there could get it done.
Oh, yeah.
Great job, Pat. Let us know how the rest of your day goes. We will check in with you after the show.
Great.
Thank you, Pat.
Pat's having quite the couple weeks. He's coming right off of the heels of a successful elk hunt in Idaho.
Yeah, I don't think he was even planning on fishing, but he tagged out on like the first morning or something, and so he had to fill some other time in Idaho.
Well, he's so into it. His wife, I think, is flying out to fish for like another week of perch fishing. I'm going to have to stop by Pat's place for a fish fry when I'm in Wisconsin.
Sounds delightful.
Boy, do I love Pat. All right, moving on. Our next segment is MeatEater Show and Tell.
MeatEater Show and Tell. MeatEater Show and Tell. Whoa.
Back to the Phil.
We can still see Pat celebrating on the boat. He just did a huge fist bump.
Brought a rock. What else did you expect?
Oh, Phil, thank you.
Oh, we could just do 10 minutes of Phil's sound offs.
Live
What a treat.
Now, Phil, he said in the sounder there that I brought a rock. What else would you expect? And Phil was right.
No.
I truly didn't know.
I brought a rock today for show and tell. And show and tell is exactly what it sounds like. This is like if you walked into an elementary school on Friday. We're going to be showing you our favorite knickknacks from our home and then tell you about them. So the first thing, I'm going to go first here. This in my hand. Phil, can you do a tight on me at all?
I can do a single shot, but I can't really zoom in here right now.
This is a dinosaur bone, and I actually brought dinosaur bones for you boys today. You can have these. One for Randall, one for Yanni.
You pick which one you want. Randall.
And this is from a duck-billed dinosaur. I found it on the Montana-Canada border.
Is it the official state dinosaur of Montana?
I don't know.
Which is a duck-billed
I think it is a
dinosaur.
duck-bill. There are a few types of duck-bills. This would be the official state dinosaur. Is it the official state fossil?
I think it's the official dinosaur.
Okay, I found this with...
Corinne has something to say.
Oh, no, I was just going to say for our audio-only audience, can you describe in detail what it is? Color, size?
It just looks like a rock to me, honestly.
I think it looks like a bone. You can I don't know,
it's a little porous on one side.
Porous marrow type structure.
Now, a lot of people would ask, how do you know it's a dinosaur bone? Or how do you know what kind of rock you're looking at? Now, with dinosaur bones and most fossilized bones in general, there's a really cool test you could do, and this is not a trick. It's called the lick test. Now, I'll show you what I mean by the lick test. If you take a fossilized dino bone and put it on your tongue, it will stick to your tongue as though you have just licked like a frozen flagpole at recess in the winter. So I'm going to show you what I mean. I have this dino bone. It's about the size of a quarter.
Does it matter if you lick the porous or the non-porous side?
It helps if you lick the porous side. So I'm just
the
going to
smooth
press.
side works too, though.
I'm going to press this against my tongue, and you can see what I mean by the lick test. Here we go.
Oh, wow. Screen grab that, Phil.
What is it that makes it do that?
I don't know. I don't know what the properties of it that makes it do it. But if you're out in a place where you could legally collect fossils like this, like, a private ranch in Montana like I was on, and you find something like that could be a dinosaur bone, one way you'll tell is do the lick test. Yanni, Randall, you boys do the lick test. It's
I just did.
Works. And it worked for you?
Yeah.
Hanging right on their tongue. Yeah, the lick test. That's how you declare if something is a fossilized bone or not. That is my item today.
Tastes like a dinosaur, too.
And also a hot tip-off, too. That's for free.
Ooh,
that's a free one.
hot tip.
Yep. Yanni, what did you bring for show and tell?
I brought this jar of elk teeth, elk ivories.
Looks like there's about a pint's worth of ivories in there.
I'd say it's more like a half pint, like a cup.
Oh, yeah, that's
maybe.
a cup.
Yeah, that's
I'm sorry.
But
cup and a third, maybe.
Once I saw actually a pint of elk ivories, I was like, "Damn, dude, that's a lot of elk ivories," And the guy was very. It was Donnie the Wild Man McConnell, which I've talked about him before. He was a guy I used to guide with. He was. Have I told you guys about him?
No. It sounds fascinating.
He would guide in a leather jacket that
I have
he
heard about
custom sewed his own pockets into for his cigarettes, lighter, 44 Magnum, and his bunk had no sleeping bag on it. He would literally sit down on his bunk and finish off his last Budweiser, which was, probably into the double digits of the evening, put his cigarette out, take his boots off some nights, and then lay down with the leather jacket still on, sometimes with a pillow or not. And in the morning, he'd sit up, light up a cigarette, and start drinking Cokes. And he'd go about half of the day with Cokes, and then the other half of the day with Budweisers. Anyways, he had a full jar of these.
They don't make them like him anymore.
No. And I thought, man, I'll just start. This thing is roughly the size of a pint jar. How long will it take to fill up a pint jar of elk ivories?
Yep.
I feel like, I don't know if they're shrinking, but I feel like I put a couple, sometimes 4 in here every year, and it's almost like my little pile gets smaller. I mean,
You're
it's...
going to have to check your daughter's room, see if they're thieving them, taking them to show.
No. Well, I doubt it. But I'm just saying that it takes a lot. Do you want to take a guess? I counted them when I got in here. Do you want to take a guess of how many pairs are in here?
I would say 15.
Oh, I was going to say 14. Are we doing Price is Right rules?
No. All
right.
What is it, Yanni?
32 pairs.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, there's
That
60.
barely put a dent in
there's
this.
64 teeth in here.
To get 1 cup of
32
Wow.
elk. And if you can, that they used to, the indigenous of this landmass used to have shirts that were completely sewed, with a whole front of elk ivories. I mean, it must have been hundreds of animals that they used.
Can you identify any of the ivories in there? Like, I know this one was from this bull.
No, I've thought about, marking them like Steve does with a little, use a little white out and then write something on there. But I don't have many collections at home. I'm not a big collector, but this is something that I do collect. I don't know. It's just a jar of teeth, really, when you think about it. I probably won't be grabbing it in a fire, and running out of the house with it. But it's one of the few things that I collect, my little jar of ivories.
Very nice addition to MeatEater Show and Tell. Randall, what do you got for us today?
Well, for the young folks out there, this is a point-and-shoot camera. Prior to the age of the smartphone, you used to carry around one of these in hopes
About the size of a deck of cards.
Yeah, about the size of a deck of cards. This is the Olympus Stylus Tough. And I was organizing my garage and found this camera, an ancient memory. And I thought that I would bring it in because that was the second time I've found this camera. The first time was after I shot my first bear in Alaska. Someone took a photo of me. And that person, if the Delamere and Hopkins crew is still on there, that person is Neil Potter. And we brought the bear back to the boat. And he says, "Dude, I don't have your camera." And I spent the rest of the summer looking for that camera. And I was just cutting down Devil's Club and all kinds of things. Couldn't find it. Got a metal detector. Couldn't find it.
This was important.
I wanted a photo. And so in any event, I went back the following May to guide another summer. And when you go back to Alaska in the springtime, nothing's grown up. It's all just dead. So I walked right back there, found this thing. The waterproof and freeze-proof claims are accurate because, Phil, we have that photo. Hey, look at that.
Very nice.
Wow.
And And there's a second part to my show and tell.
Did you used to be Amish?
No, that's just how my beard grows.
He is from Ohio.
I actually, in that photo, I have
the shirt, though. You're really going for the look there.
That's a denim shirt. Used to wear them all the time. That's a Delamere and Hopkins hat. Shout out Delamere and Hopkins again. And that bear was killed with a 430 grain hard cast bullet loaded by HSM ammo out of the Bitterroot Valley. And because I didn't think I had a photo of it, I got my first shoulder mount.
Okay, and he brought that.
So I have the bear right here. So it's all
very
fun.
Nice.
This is the only way I'd shoulder mount a bear of this size because I thought I didn't have a photo. So that was an expensive, unnecessary bear.
The picture made him look a lot bigger.
Yeah, I know. He's kind of scruffed up.
Where is that bear mount in your home?
It's just sitting out in the garage. It was actually very close to where I found this camera.
Okay.
So usually we have him in a position of prominence, and he wears a Santa Claus hat in the wintertime. That's my show and tell.
Show and tell.
Just couple elements there.
I like it.
Layers
just to prove Phil right, I'm going to bring rocks every single time now. It was fun. Yanni brought 64 things to show and tell. Randall brought 3 things to show and tell, and I also brought 3 things to show and tell. We'll see if we can top it next time. Moving on, joining us on the line next is professional chef Yia Vang. He just opened his second restaurant in Minneapolis and is here to talk to us about Hmong cooking. Yia, welcome to the show.
What's up, dudes? How are you guys doing?
We're great. How are you?
Good. The whole lick test you guys were doing, I'm like, dude, I got caught up in that once, but it was in a van in an alley somewhere. It was super weird. But I'm like, I guess that's a fossil. Yeah, it was weird. The dude's like coming to my van. I'm like, okay.
And they got him. First thing, now the Minnesota State Fair that just recently ended, it's second only to the Texas State Fair as the biggest state fair in the country. Did you go this year?
Yeah, we have a shop, so it was there. This is our 3rd year there. The asterisk on the Minnesota State Fair being the second overall in the nation is because the Texas State Fair is 30 days, and the Minnesota State Fair is only 12. So it's kind of a little unfair there. But this year we had almost 2 million people come through in about 12 days.
Wow.
Okay, what was the best thing you ate there that wasn't your own food?
Man, you can do all the fry stuff if you want, but for me, man, it's gotta be, frick, dude, I have so many friends there. They're going to be so mad at me. But anyways, okay, here, this is like my try and true. No, this is my try and true. There's a place there where it's just like a beef tips kind of place. I forget the name of it, but basically you get a big pile of mashed potato and you just get some sirloin chips and then fried onions. And I mean, it just hits, so it's one of my favorites.
Now, can people find you? Can people find you at the State Fair most years?
Yeah, we're there every year. So State Fair, it's kind of like run like the mob, so blood in, blood out. So once you get in, to get out, it's like you gotta, there's some stuff. I kid you not, in about 20 to 25 years, Netflix is gonna do a show called like The Truth Behind the Minnesota State Fair, right? And they're gonna interview us, and then I'm gonna I'm gonna tell you guys some secrets,
Okay, looking forward to that. Currently, we're doing the MeatEater Tailgate Tour, but we think next year, Randall and I were talking, it should be the MeatEater State Fair Tour. We'll go to Minnesota, Texas, all the best state fairs in the country.
It is the most ridiculous thing ever. Like I talk to my friends who aren't around from this area, and they're like, "That's cute. You guys have this like county fair." I'm like, "Bro, ain't no county fair." Like one of the Saturdays in one day, a 12-hour day, we had 258,000 people come through. So
that's amazing.
Wow.
Now, you tell us where you're standing today. I see an open flame behind you.
Yeah, so we're at our brand new restaurant, Vinai. So we have an open kitchen right here. Our friend Ben, he makes these incredible grill called Grillworks. So there's these grills that goes up and down, and we got this really cool setup back here. The wood we use is Minnesota oak. So it's from this guy named he's got a place here. It's called Paul's Firewood. I thought it was Paul's Hardwood. If you type in Google Paul's Hardwood, something else comes up. So I found out that really quick. But Minnesota oak, man, it's just everything we cook from. It's a very cooking from wood fire is a very traditional thing with a lot of Hmong food, especially with our people growing up in the mountains of Laos. And this is how my father and his fathers before him, this is how they cook. So we're really excited about using this.
And is the flame just for looks because you're on the podcast today, or are you actually cooking something right now?
No, I'm actually cooking something. So, what's really cool is we do the show on Outdoor called Feral. And I got to meet my buddy Chris, who owns Broken Arrow Ranch. And so down in Texas. And they do access deer, they do boar, they do everything. So it's almost like this traveling butcher shop they have. So we get our wild boar from them. So we're making like a wild boar Hmong sausage. So basically, it's wild boar, and we threw a little bit of belly in there because we want a little bit more fat. Lemongrass, ginger, garlic, fish sauce, chili oil, salt, and pepper. And what I love about using wild boar is the original hogs or boars that was used in the mountains of Laos. Here in America, the wild boar here is the closest we get. And what's so special about this dish is that it is the closest that I'll get to be making almost the exact same Hmong sausage that my father and my grandfather, who passed away during the war, and I never met him, this is what they did back in the old country in the mountains of Laos, which a couple years ago, I got a chance to go visit. So it's really special, and it, man, it's so cool. And being able to share that with my father, and we were talking about this, and how a lot of the hogs they had up there were wild. So they would go and they hunt it, and then they break it down. The whole village would come. They break it down. And they put all the aromatics in it, and then to even eat sausage, when you're in these poor villages, is a special treat. So what they would do is they would start a little fire.
They had to make their own casings from those hogs too, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, they don't make the casing; they pull the casing out.
Yeah,
which is you know what I'm saying. Yeah. So but the fast way of doing it, right, is just So what we did is we mix it up and everything, and then Dad was just like they make just little patties. They take little patties, yep, and then you kind of just almost like burger patties. And then what they would have is a little like a little rack, which I'm putting it on right now. But you put a patty, you put it on a rack like this. Let's see that. Yeah, so and then just throw it over the fire. And the cool thing about this, and what my father taught me, was that it was always on the go, right? So you're out, you're hunting, and sometimes you got to walk hours and hours, and then you hunt. I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about. And right away, you can break the meat down. You bring in little aromatics. You do that. You start a little fire. You use bamboos, and then you would make a little rack like this. You put it on. You bring some sticky rice with you, and that was your lunch. Go ahead.
He just put these patties on the grill. How long are they going to be there now?
So they'll probably be there about, I don't know, it's 5 minutes on each side, and we'll kind of flip them and go. But for you guys, we'll go real close right down there. Awesome things.
Lowering the grade.
We don't do fake TV cooking here. This is real, Things won't burn.
What makes your newest restaurant different than everything else that's in Minneapolis?
Well, I don't really think that we're doing anything really new. What I really do tell people is the name Vinai, which is the name of the restaurant. It's named after the refugee camp that our family came through. I was born there. My siblings were born there. My parents met there in 1977. They got married in 1978. And in 1988, we ended up here in St. Paul, Minnesota. So Vinai hosts from 1975 to 1992, hosted about 90,000 refugees after the war. When I say war, I mean Vietnam War, which it's in northern Laos, so not a lot of people knew about it. It was actually called the Secret War, and it was a war fought by the American government and the CIA. My father, at the age of 12 and 13, he joined up, so he was part of the militia that fought for the Americans. And so after that, the Americans pulled out. There's all these refugees, thousands and thousands of people came through, and so this restaurant here, Vinai, I just tell people it's a love letter to my mom and dad. If you guys get a chance to come down here, every piece in this place has a memory, dedicated to them. It's an emblem of them. You guys are hunters, you guys are fathers, and you guys understand what it means to leave a legacy. And especially being conservationists too, understanding of we need to take care of something so we can pass it down to the next generation. And for Hmong people, when we came to this country, we didn't have any land, we didn't own anything, and what our parents and their parents were able to pass down is their legacy. And for me, as much as people look at like land and say, hey, this is my father's land, which is his father's land. I look at it as like, this is my father's legacy, which was my grandfather's legacy, which was his father's legacy. And we get to do that, man. We get to do that with food and the way that we make food and stuff like that. So it's super exciting.
Yeah, I'd say that backstory makes it different than everything else that's in Minneapolis. Now, Yanni said he might be passing through in a few weeks, and he's real interested in stopping. What would you recommend Yanni order when he's there?
I mean, I'll believe it when I see it. Guys like big superstars like Yanni and Steve. It's one of those I'll call you, don't call me kind of deal. I will admit, Cal came through here for an event, and he DM'd me, and he talked to me like he remembered me from the podcast show. So I'm like, oh, thanks, buddy.
Do I need a reservation?
You know what? I mean, if you want to pull the celebrity thing that Steve does, you get your agent, your people to call our people. We'll set it all up for you, brother.
No, but I'm serious. Can I just show up? Or I'm asking for anybody. Do they need a call ahead to get a table?
We are very, very blessed to have right now being kind of newer. So we are kind of booked out till like the end of October-ish. But for you, buddy, I will kick out the lieutenant governor out of here. Who has a spot. I'll be like, yeah.
All right.
When Yanni is there, what should he order? What do you recommend?
So, hey, Yanni, you get here, man. It's all about our grill, right? So we have some really great vegetables coming off the grill. But we have this pork chop. It's a double-cut pork chops, right? So that bad boy is about 2 pounds. 2 bones in there. And that bone part, that's the baby back rib right there. And then you have the tail end of the pork chop there is like the top part of the belly. So you got that fat, then you got that center cut. Dude, I go for that. I would also go for the fish. We have this fish that was butterflied out, grilled right over the fire. Get some sticky rice. Get some of our cocktails. And stuff like that. So I would say, and then our crab fried rice, man. People have been killing about the crab fried rice. It's been super cool.
No, I'm gonna order one of each, and I'm gonna bring my one of my daughters. It's coming with me to hunt, and so we'll stop in for lunch on our way to.
Hey, Yanni, if you come down here, make sure Casey comes with you too.
Okay, I'll bug him. Yeah, that'd be fun.
He's been traveling, being so cool, so he hasn't returned any much text too.
Right, now, if somebody can't make it to your restaurant, but they want to try some Hmong cooking at home, can you recommend like a meal that they start with, or what ingredients should they have on hand?
Yeah, lemongrass, ginger, garlic, shallots, fish sauce, Thai chilies. Those are the basics. They're always around. Those are our in the fancy French word, it's our mirepoix, it's our sofrito, it's Spanish.
Having a little technical. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Okay. Am I good?
You're back.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So lemongrass, ginger, garlic, shallots, fish sauce, Thai chilies. Those are things around. There's kind of the base of what we cook from. I would say too is you can literally YouTube, Google, you can do all that stuff right now. There's a lot of great Hmong food content creator that will walk you through the whole dish, the whole meal. A lot of vegetables. A lot of vegetables. Our people are agricultural people, so we get to use some really, really cool stuff. My mom and dad actually has a farm that's like almost 10 acres, and every season they grow all the vegetables there, and then they give me a call and we go pick it up, and so a lot of our produce product that comes from them.
Yeah, you're making us hungry. Now, if somebody wanted to try your cooking, tell folks how they can find you in Minnesota.
So yeah, we're in Minneapolis. We have 2 locations, or we have 2 restaurants. So Union Hmong Kitchen, which is in Uptown, and then we have one in a food hall in North Loop. And that's more like, fast cash, sit down, think, and then we have Vinai, which is in Northeast here. And so we're here. We're also in a bunch of the sporting stadium, like the soccer stadium, US Bank Field with the Vikings, Twin Stadium. And then in the summer we have, whatchamacallit, we have the state fair in the summer. And so we're kind of all around, and, we're very blessed to get to do what we did do.
Yeah. How do you spell Vinai?
Vinai. Vinai. So
that's easy.
Yanni,
VinaiMN.com.
He's putting it into his itinerary right now.
He's pulling up Open Table, trying to get a resi.
No, I'm not messing with you, man. I'm definitely stopping through. I'm gonna be there twice.
No. Well, like literally, just message me. We'll and then Yanni in our resi, we even have little tags on there. So I'll put on like the types of celebrity, influencer.
I don't
very
need
important.
that. I don't.
You know,
Put in Latvian, easy on the spice.
Bro, you'll be
All right,
fine, man. You'll be fine.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Yia.
Get back to those burgers and
Yeah. Thanks a lot, boys. Appreciate it, man. Yeah.
Thanks, Yia.
Yeah, have a great day.
And just to highlight, thanks, Yia. Just to highlight, he was on episode 480 of the MeatEater podcast with Steve and the gang. It's called Going Feral with the Hmong.
All right, boys, that brings us to the end of today's episode, but we'll get some listener feedback from Phil here before we say goodbye.
Yeah, not a whole lot of questions today, I'm assuming, just because everyone was so engaged with this incredible program. But let's see. We have Gage is asking, will Dr. Randall ever become rooted against in trivia like Steve once was? He's been dominating as long, if not longer, than Ranella. Or is it more about personality than dominance?
Oh, Gage, you're not paying attention, buddy. We're definitely rooting against him. It's just basically the world against Randall in this room.
Rooting against him in a way that our most recent episode that dropped yesterday, we gave all the players an enormous advantage over Randall, so you can go check that out.
Yeah,
How'd you do that?
You just got to go.
watch
the episode.
Speaking of, Corey says Randall isn't allowed back in Michigan after his T-shirt stunt at the Big House. He's putting his photo up at the border.
My apologies. Ann Arbor is a lovely place. I had a great time. Loved getting to meet some students at the University of Michigan, but at my core, I'm a Buckeye, and so I tried to do something subtle, tasteful. And I tried to avoid any sort of confrontation, but I do appreciate the hospitality in Ann Arbor.
Randall wore an Ohio State University T-shirt to an Ann Arbor game.
And I only showed it to the camera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is like the one big, thick, meaty question that we got during the show, and it's kind of, this is more of a Cal question, but you guys are seasoned vets of the industry, and maybe you'll have some insight here. But Ryan says, a Texan hunter here, is there any reason that state or federal government couldn't buy some of the giant ranches for sale and convert them to public land/state parks? Is it just a lack of political will?
Politics.
Yeah, I think each state is like sort of taken on its identity for hunters and anglers at this point, and that's just like not in Texas's culture to have a whole bunch of public land to go hunt. But I mean, you're not wrong. They probably could do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's budgets for federal land management agencies to acquire lands and do land swaps and all kinds of stuff. There's no rule that says what's not federal can never be federal, but yeah, it's a thorny issue politically.
Some states are known for their opportunity. Some states are known for their trophy units. And some states like Texas are known for being heavily privatized for their game and fish.
Yeah. And the last quick hitters here. Chase is just thanking Spencer for his child lock on his freezer tip from episode 1 from the hot tip-offs.
That's the kind of advice you can get from this here podcast. Something he said his $9 child lock makes him sleep better at night.
That's right.
Thank you for writing in, Chase.
Yeah, and we'll leave you all with some fighting words. Posterior attention says that the Minnesota State Fair has better cheese curds than Wisconsin. So,
well,
Wisconsinites come after
there's
the
probably
posterior.
some dude from Wisconsin that brought his cheese curds over there to sell them.
I always trust an internet commenter with the handle posterior attention.
All right, that is it for this week's episode. We'll see you guys back here same time and place in 7 days.
Thank you, gang.
Thanks, boys. That was fun.